He is a living legend, a voice that has narrated the universe and an actor whose presence commands reverence. Morgan Freeman has won an Academy Award, spoken as God on screen, and built a career spanning 6 decades. But behind that glory lies a story not glamorous, but brutal. A grandmother's death that shattered his childhood, a hand paralyzed forever by twisted metal, a granddaughter murdered in 25 stab wounds, a reputation torn apart by accusations in his final years. And now at 87, he wears a glove that reminds him every moment of what was taken. If Morgan Freeman has ever made you believe, made you feel, or made you cry, hit like, as tribute to a man who earned his greatness through relentless suffering. It is heartbreaking when the beginning of a legend is marked not by privilege, but by abandonment. Morgan Freeman was born on June 1, 1937, in Memphis, Tennessee during Jim Crow America. His father was a barber who drowned his pain in bottles. His mother was a teacher struggling to hold together a broken family. As an infant, Morgan was sent to Charleston, Mississippi to live with his grandmother, not because his parents didn't love him, because they couldn't afford to feed him. Poverty was merciless. His grandmother's house smelled of kerosene and hunger. Meals stretched thin across days. Floors creaked under bare feet. Yet it was his grandmother who gave him something money couldn't buy: kindness. She held him when thunderstorms shook the walls. She taught him scripture and whispered that he was special. For 6 years, she was his world. Then, she died. Morgan was only 6 years old when they lowered her into the ground. He stood there in clothes too small, watching the only person who truly saw him disappear beneath Mississippi dirt. He would later admit, "I still feel that loss. It carved out something inside me that never grew back." After her death, he was passed around like luggage. Chicago with his mother, Nashville for a while, back to Greenwood, Mississippi, where they finally stopped moving. His father drifted further into alcoholism, dying of cirrhosis in 1961. Morgan never spoke much of him. Some wounds don't deserve words. Those words became scripture. From that day forward, Morgan clung to acting. At age 9, he was cast as the lead in a school play. At 12, he won a statewide drama competition in Mississippi. But the dream felt impossible for a black boy in the Jim Crow South. So, when he graduated high school in 1955, he turned down a drama scholarship and joined the United States Air Force, wanting to be a fighter pilot. But they made him a mechanic, a radar technician, anything but a pilot. For 4 years, he fixed planes that other men flew. He would confess decades later, "I had this very clear epiphany. You are not in love with this. You are in love with the idea of this." In 1959, he left and drove to Los Angeles with nothing but a suitcase. It is haunting to think how wide the gap was between dream and reality. In Los Angeles, Morgan worked as a transcript clerk. He took acting classes he could barely afford. He waited tables. He delivered packages. He danced at the 1964 World's Fair just to pay rent. His knuckles bled from carrying boxes. Every audition felt like begging. Every rejection felt like proof he didn't belong. In the early 1960s, he moved to New York City. More odd jobs. More silence. He made his off-Broadway debut in 1967. Then Broadway in 1968 in Hello, Dolly, starring Pearl Bailey. Critics noticed him, but roles still didn't come. Then, in 1971, he was cast in a PBS children's show called The Electric Company. It taught kids to read. Morgan played Easy Reader, a cool character in sunglasses. The gig ran for 6 seasons, 780 episodes. It brought recognition and paid bills, but Freeman hated it. He would later say, "It was a very creative show, but man, it was a long gig. It drained me." He was nearly 40, and people only knew him as the guy from the kids' show. He had nightmares that this was all he'd ever be. For years, Morgan worked without recognition. His bank account dwindled. Days blurred into nights he didn't want to face. He slept in a cheap New York apartment. He ate sandwiches stretched across days. He called his mother weekly and lied about how well things were going. The truth was darker. He was close to giving up. Then, in 1987, at age 50, he got a call, a role in Street Smart. He was cast as Fast Black, a violent pimp. It was unlike anything he'd done before. It required reaching into places he didn't want to touch. The anger, the bitterness, the years of being overlooked. He poured it all into that role. The film premiered quietly, but critics noticed. Roger Ebert wrote, "Freeman walks away with the movie. He is completely convincing and utterly terrifying." Morgan was nominated for his first Academy Award, Best Supporting Actor. He didn't win, but it didn't matter. Hollywood finally saw him. "I was born tonight," he whispered through sobs after the nomination was announced. "Had I missed that call, the story might have ended in silence." Suddenly, roles poured in. In 1989, he starred in 4 films. Glory, a Civil War epic. Lean on Me, where he played a tough school principal. Johnny Handsome, a crime thriller. And Driving Miss Daisy, where he played Hoke Colburn, a gentle chauffeur to an elderly white woman in the segregated South. The role earned him another Oscar nomination, this time for Best Actor. The film won Best Picture. Freeman became a household name at age 52. The 1990s cemented his greatness. The Shawshank Redemption in 1994, where he played Red, a wise inmate whose narration became the soul of the film. Another Oscar nomination. Say Seven on in 1995, a dark thriller with Brad Pitt. Deep Impact in 1998. By the time he played God in Bruce Almighty in 2003, audiences believed it. His voice had become iconic, his presence undeniable. Then, in 2004, at age 67, he finally won Best Supporting Actor for Million Dollar Baby, directed by Clint Eastwood. He played Eddie Scrap Iron Dupreez, a former boxer and gym assistant. When they called his name at the Oscars, he walked slowly to the stage, his face calm but his eyes wet. It felt less like victory and more like vindication, yet the price was steep. His body staggered under the weight of decades spent chasing this moment. His mind teetered on the edge of exhaustion, and life, as always, had darker plans. It is often said that fame cannot protect you from grief, but for Morgan Freeman, grief arrived with the cruelty of repetition. The first blow came in 2008. He was 71 years old, driving a 1997 Nissan Maxima through Mississippi late at night. The car veered off the road. It flipped. Once, twice, multiple times before landing in a ditch. Emergency crews found him trapped inside, conscious but broken. They used the jaws of life to cut him free. He was airlifted to a hospital in Memphis. The diagnosis was devastating. Broken left shoulder, broken arm, broken elbow. Nerve damage so severe that doctors said it might never heal. Within days, he underwent surgery. The bones were set, the wounds stitched, but the nerves in his left hand refused to recover. He thought the surgery was the final blow, but life had not finished with him. Months passed, then years. The hand remained useless. "I suffered nerve damage, and it hasn't gotten better," he told reporters in 2010. "I can't move it. If you don't move your hand, it will swell up." Do you know you move your hand about 1,000,000 times a day? He began wearing a compression glove to force blood circulation. The glove became part of him, black and tight, visible in interviews, on red carpets, even in films. But it wasn't just the hand. The crash left him with fibromyalgia, a chronic pain condition that sent waves of agony up and down his arm. "It's the fibromyalgia," he confessed in a 2012 interview, wincing. "Up and down the arm. That's where it gets so bad." Excruciating. The accident stole more than his hand. It took his hobbies. He had learned to fly planes and earned a pilot's license at 65. Now he couldn't fly. He loved sailing and had spent years mastering it. Now docking a boat was impossible with one working hand. The last time he tried, he couldn't bring the boat back in. He had to call for help. He learned to play golf, one-handed swinging, with only his right arm. But every swing reminded him of what was gone. Yet even this agony paled compared to what came next. In August 2015, Morgan's step-granddaughter, Edina Hines, was murdered. She was 33 years old, an aspiring actress with a bright future. Edina was not his biological granddaughter, but he had raised her since childhood and loved her as his own. She had just finished filming her final movie. Days later, she was outside her apartment building in Washington Heights, New York, arguing with her boyfriend, Lamar Davenport. Witnesses said Davenport was high on PCP, ranting about demons and exorcisms. He knocked Edina to the ground. He pinned her there. Then he stabbed her. Once, twice, over and over, 25 times in total, twice through the heart. A witness, Christina Aviles, heard Edina's last words. "Why are you doing this?" she begged. But Davenport didn't stop. He kept screaming about releasing the devil out of her. By the time police arrived, she was gone. Morgan released a statement that felt too small for the enormity of his grief. The world will never know her artistry and talent, and how much she had to offer. Her star will continue to shine bright in our hearts, thoughts, and prayers. May she rest in peace. But the nightmare didn't end there. During the trial in 2018, Davenport's defense attorney dragged up baseless rumors that had haunted Morgan for years, false accusations that he and Edina had an inappropriate relationship. Both had denied the rumors when Edina was alive. But now, she couldn't defend herself. And the rumors were weaponized in court, twisted into a justification for her murder. The pain of losing her was unbearable. The pain of having her memory desecrated in a courtroom was unforgivable. Davenport was convicted of first-degree manslaughter and sentenced to 20 years. It wasn't enough. No sentence could be. It was as if grief had a blueprint returning to etch the same wounds deeper each time. Just as Morgan thought he might find peace, another storm arrived. In May 2018, at age 80, CNN published an investigation. 8 women accused him of sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior. They described unwanted touching comments about their bodies, stares that made them uncomfortable. One production assistant said he repeatedly tried to lift her skirt on the set of Going in Style. Another said he made her feel like a creepy uncle was watching. CNN reporter Chloe Melas, who was 6 months pregnant, said Freeman made comments to her during an interview calling her ripe. Morgan issued an apology. Anyone who knows me, or has worked with me, knows I am not someone who would intentionally offend or knowingly make anyone feel uneasy. I apologize to anyone who felt uncomfortable or disrespected. That was never my intent. But the damage was done. Visa suspended its advertising campaign featuring his voice. The Screen Actors Guild considered revoking his Lifetime Achievement Award. A Vancouver transit system dropped him as their voice. For a man who had spent decades building a reputation of dignity and wisdom, the allegations felt like a public execution. He issued a second statement more forceful. I am devastated that 80 years of my life is at risk of being undermined in the blink of an eye. I admit that I am someone who feels a need to try to make women and men feel appreciated and at ease around me. As part of that, I would often try to joke with and compliment women in what I thought was a light-hearted and humorous way. He insisted his actions were misunderstood, but to many the explanation rang hollow. Some believed the women, some believed him. The truth became irrelevant in the court of public opinion. What remained was a stain that no apology could fully erase. With time, Morgan found not glamour, but quiet. He retreated to his home in Charleston, Mississippi, the same small town where his grandmother had raised him. He lives there, still on land he bought decades ago, a place where the air smells like pine and the nights are silent. He maintains a home in New York, but Mississippi is where his soul rests. He still acts. He still lends his voice to documentaries, but the fire that once drove him has dimmed. The man who once wanted to be more than he was now seems content with simply being. He plays golf with one hand. He wears the glove every day. He carries the grief of Edina's death like a stone in his chest. He carries the weight of accusations like scars that never heal. Now, at 87, Morgan Freeman stands as a monument to survival. He owns property in Mississippi, New York, Los Angeles, and the Virgin Islands. His net worth is estimated at $250 million. He has an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, a Screen Actors Guild Award. His voice has narrated the universe. He has played God, presidents, mentors, and men of wisdom. Yet what defines him is not what he owns. It's what he's endured. The grandmother who died when he was 6. The father who drank himself to death. The decades of rejection. The hand that will never move again. The granddaughter murdered in the street. The reputation questioned in his final years. Through it all, he kept moving forward, not because he was fearless, but because stopping would have meant letting the pain win. He once said, "Some people carry pain like a badge. I carry it quietly where no one can see." And in another moment of reflection, he admitted, "Applause fades, trophies gather dust. But what you leave in people's hearts, the way you make them feel, these endure. That is the measure of a life." He doesn't speak much about legacy. He doesn't need to. His work speaks for him. From the boy abandoned in Mississippi to the voice of God. From the man crushed by a car to the man who learned to swing a golf club with one hand. From the grandfather grieving a murdered child to the elder still showing up, still working, still breathing. Morgan Freeman's life is not a fairy tale. It's a testament to what it means to survive when survival feels impossible. From the poverty of Charleston to the heights of Hollywood, from rejection to recognition, from paralysis to perseverance. His life teaches us that greatness is not given. It is torn from the hands of fate by those too stubborn to quit. If this story has touched your heart, leave a tribute below, not for the Oscars or the fame, but for the man who kept going when everything told him to stop. And wherever life finds you tonight, may you be blessed with the courage to keep moving forward, even when your hand no longer works, even when your heart is shattered, even when the world questions everything you are. May you find the strength Morgan Freeman found. To endure, to survive, to become a legend, not despite the pain, but because of it.